So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining this course. I think it's a very important day in the development sector, if you ask me, because we are all going to think and learn together. Most of all me, I'm sure of that. And this particular online session is being done by the course that Deepesh and I attended in Harvard on systems thinking. And I will be sharing some of the concepts that we learned there. I'll only be able to share a few because we don't have too much time. But I think it'll be a great start, and we will also, talk further from there. I am the co-founder of Enable India, and my name is Shanti Raghavan. Before we get started, I want to tell you the inclusion guidelines. The sign language interpreter is there for the day. But the interpreter has been sent the presentation in advance, and they have the glossary of words. They've even discussed some of the new signs that they'll have to say. And also they know the sign names for the co-anchors. So for example, my sign name is S with a smile, which I put near my, chin and say S. And similarly, others have their signs. Every 15 minutes, we'll try to pause. I want some of my colleagues here to remind me around that 15-minute time. So we'll give a little pause. Sorry, I think we said 20 minutes. Yeah. Every 20 minutes, we'll try to give a pause so that the interpreter can change. And there'll be interpreters that are spotlighted at the right time. There are subtitles for the individuals who are hard of hearing. It has been turned on. We have sent instructional video for turning on subtitles in Zoom. Request all the hard of hearing people to turn on the subtitles. Yeah. Tactile sign language interpreters are there for persons with deaf blindness who are joining. So the tactile interpreter will be there with the person who's deaf blind, and they will be looking at the interpreter. Right now, Saurav is signing. So they will sign there, but actually have the deaf blind person's hand in hand, right? So it will be tactile. The visuals will be explained for people with vision impairment, low vision, and dyslexia. Though we do know that dyslexic folks require that visual, just to understand some of the things going on. It was very nice that this came in the expectations. So thank you so much for your expectations that you all sent. We will employ real use cases and a simple way to explain the concepts. This also came from each one of you. And we'll try to keep the pace of discussion slow because you requested it. And that is very correct. Because it's a concept, it's very important that we go slow. You all please rate me after this, okay? Did I really go slow? Okay. Yes. So with that, let me just move on to the next slide. Was that the next slide? Okay, great. I thought there was something. Yeah. Okay. So the agenda is that we will start with understanding the concept of systems thinking. At Harvard, we started after this, but I think it's important for us to understand the basic concept and how we can work on wicked problems. The word wicked is to show, and in fact, when the sign language interpreters do, they kind of show a wicked problem, which is, being caught with roots. So I love that sign, by the way. And we will use disability use cases to understand that. And we will do this through journeys of persons with disability. We will use disability as the use case. Systems thinking can be used in climate change and many other places, but we will be covering disability. The next thing we'll do in the agenda is how do we apply this? Finally, this is all good, but how do we apply it? And this is where I will talk of some of the insights that we gained at Harvard. And a couple of them were like, whoa, though I feel I've been a systems thinking practitioner for many years, when you learn it scientifically, you actually learn to always apply it. And then I will be addressing some of your expectations and a way forward. And thank you for your, giving those expectations. That was very helpful. Zoom etiquette, use the raise hand feature when you wish to speak. And I have my colleagues here sitting in the same room, and they will be monitoring that in case there is something that you want to speak. We'll try to, we will not be able to keep it very interactive. We had hoped to do breakout rooms and all that. But then seeing the number of people who are joining, we feel it will be difficult to keep the breakout rooms. Yeah. And if you're not talking, please mute your microphone. And we would like not only you to ask your questions in the chat box, and I have my colleagues here who will be monitoring it, And it's if there are some questions we can't answer during the webinar, then we will definitely take it and individually talk to you. But also keep your comments coming. Yes, I agree with this or whatever. It's always nice to get a feeling of interaction. I'm so sorry we can't keep it as interactive as we'd like. And I first want to give a hearty welcome to all of you. You are founders, entrepreneurs from the social sector, corporate sector, government, students, caregivers, our Purple Ambassadors, yay, and many others like para-athletes and PhD scholars and rehabilitation professionals, etc. Your expectations, I've kind of just shown in front here that we have your expectation, we have listened to it. And I must say that if this webinar is happening, you have helped to co-create it with us because of your expectations. First, I'm going to just say thanks before I really get started to the Schwab Foundation. Deepesh and I are Schwab innovators, and we were sent to Harvard, completely free of cost, which is amazing, and to the Harvard professors. And then all the people who have helped to make this webinar possible, the project managers, content creators, co-anchors, people who have handled logistics, inclusion, the interpreters, and the review. So just a quick thanks. I'm not reading out their names, but just a quick thanks to everybody. So I would like to now stop sharing my screen. A quick poll with you before we get started. Frank, if you can just keep the poll on, and we will, talk of 3 different types of questions. The first question should come up on your screen. Do you care deeply about wicked problems that are not getting solved? Example, gender, disability, climate. You can give a single choice answer and submit it. We'll give you about 20-30 seconds for doing it. Frank, have you got enough responses?
Yes. We have 7 is 6, 7 is 7 for now.
Okay, giving another 10 seconds. Come on, let's have more people giving their inputs. Hopefully you're not having screen reader problems or a problem understanding the question. I think. Okay, if you can go on to the next question. Okay, so this is interesting. Do you care deeply? We have 82%, and some are saying sometimes, which is so true, right? We can't be. We have हमारा भी हर दिन का problems है. We have our own issues every day. So thank you so much for that. I love the percentage here. Okay, can we move on to the next one? Do you know what systems change means? Yes, no, or somewhat? Do you know what system change means? Yes, no, or somewhat? Frankie, how many have you got?
We have 82 out of 105.
Okay, so let's just wait for, maybe 5-7 seconds, and then we can stop the poll. Okay.
Right, we have 88, so I'll stop now.
Okay. So we have a mix. We have around 23% who have said yes, around 33% have said no, and somewhat is 44%. I'm hoping we will be taking a poll after we do a little bit more. I'm hoping your answers indicate you've understood it a little bit more. Okay, that will be the feedback to me. Like, what the hell are you doing? I mean, you don't really know how to explain this. I love that feedback. So yeah, that's the reason we're doing it. And yes, one last question. Please go ahead. Do you know what mental model means? Do you know what mental model means? Again, options yes, no, somewhat. I'm hoping this way we are at least interacting, even though it's not the best way. But with 117 participants, it'll be a nightmare if we ask everybody to start speaking. So we thought of breakout rooms, but it was again a nightmare to manage that. So we decided against it. Yeah. Frankie, how many do you have?
We have 90 out of 107.
Okay, go ahead. Maybe you can just stop now. Okay, so mental model, yes, we have 18%. No is 55%, and somewhat is 26%. So let's see whether those numbers change. Yeah, I think with that we will just move on. And thank you so much for your responses. Sorry, I'll just stop sharing because I need to share the sound now. Do that 1 second. Yeah, share the sound. Okay. Yeah. So thank you for your responses, and let's move on. Yes. So the first thing I want to start with the fact that all of us have been doing work in the development sector for years, and even the folks who are in the corporate sector, there's so much work that has been going on around disability, gender, climate. But there are wicked problems still. War still exists. There's so many other problems. We are calling it wicked because, the picture here for the people who are visually impaired, we have shown a tree, and there are roots which are strongly holding the wicket problem, and the wicket problem is in the branches of the tree. That's how we've shown it. So the visual you want in your mind is the roots are just holding all these problems which are there on the top, and keep that in mind. This is we are in crisis in the world, right? So that is why we need systems change. Great, but what is systems change? Thank you, Shanti, for telling me this. But what is systems change? So what we will do is we will use an iceberg example to explain systems change. For those of you who know, and for the persons who are blind and low vision, and you know that an iceberg is a big mountain of ice which is floating on water, and it's huge generally. What very often people don't know is that only 10% is what you can see, which is above the water. But what is below is 90% is actually below. So that is how we are going to explain systems change using iceberg as an example. So let me move on and give one example to make it much better to understand. I'm taking an example of a person who is having spinal cord injury. Maybe has been lying in bed for years. We have heard these stories so often. I mean, Ganga Foundation, how you'll have given such lovely examples for people like me to understand this. So why is this happening? There seems to be a barrier, and I've shown the barrier like an iceberg on top of the water. And below, you can't see anything. But now let us see what is below. So I'm just unveiling the 90% of the iceberg. And let's understand. I'm only going to discuss some of these, but let's understand it from the problem, from the family perspective, from the disabled person's perspective. Very often the family and the disabled person don't know that a spinal cord injured person can even get rehab. They just think this is the rest of life. Lie down and you're done. If somehow they know it's possible, they don't know the hospital. They just don't know it. It's not, it's not like how you have cancer hospital, different types of hospital. You don't know it. And even if it is there, very less number of hospitals are there. And if somehow you come to know that very less hospital, that means it's very far away, right? So therefore, for the family, the problem is it's a very long distance to travel to the hospital. They still are, let's say, determined, yes, let's travel. Next problem, the travel is not accessible. And we know this. I'm not going to telling you anything new. We're just trying to get a better understanding of systems thinking through this. And even if they can, somehow they're like, okay, they find accessible travel or not, they will need finance. When the family needs finance, and if they don't have it and want to get a loan, where are those loans available? If the government scheme is not available or something is not easy for the spinal cord injured person to take, then again, their life stops there itself, right? And the biggest problem is because spinal cord injury is not officially recognized in RPWD Act, definitely the other recognized disabilities will have much more privileges or benefits. And if finally they somehow make it to that hospital, I was just talking to my colleague, Kamal, and he just showed me a form which shows if you're coming and you're going to be a patient in our premise, you need to have a female caregiver. Now, what if the caregiver is a mother of 3 and you're one of the children? How does this person travel, right? So it's possible the caregiver can't travel. Now, because of these structures, what are the structures? Less hospitals and travel not accessible. And these are physical structures that don't exist. Because of these practices where the hospital rules are not there, the finance is not available, and these policies, because of these kind of structures in place. So within structure, you have these physical structures, these practices, and these policies. It's very understandable that the spinal cord injured person may not finally go to that hospital, get that rehab. And this is not going to then be a problem only for one family. It's a pattern of problems. It happens again and again and again for many families. And because of that, each of these families are going to see that this person is dependent, very understandably, because they have not got the rehabilitation. And I think not only that person, but the family think life is over. And this becomes what we call a mental model. The model inside the mind, what happens, it's set in the mind. We usually say the word mindset, but it's actually a mental model. And in fact, I love the way it's shown in the deaf. It's kind of like, it's stuck in the ground. It becomes like, so even if it's happened for 100 families, then more and more people start thinking this, that spinal cord injured person is dependent and their life is over. I've actually shown the iceberg, the structure below the barrier, and I've shown the problem patterns below the structure. And then I've shown mental models at the below portion of the iceberg, showing that 90%. And this is how I've kind of shown the visual. And I want our blind, dyslexic, and others to kind of see the visual that way, right? Barrier on top, structure below the surface of the water, then the problem patterns, and then the mental models. So this is what we think is happening. But if we think a little bit deeper, we will get a different answer. Okay, so let me show that and unveil that in the next slide, where I'm asking the question to you. This seems like a simple problem here. The problem is less hospitals, travel not accessible. We'll get more hospitals now. Kaam khatam, everything fine, yay. Well, but that does not happen, and we know it. Why? What is holding this in place? Why can't there be more hospitals? And by the way, I'm just using spinal cord injury. You think of deaf, invisible, disability, blind, neurodiversity, thalassemia, you name it. You will find these kind of issues. Why is there less something? Whatever is your issue, you can write that there. What is holding it in place actually are the mental models. That means it's not the reverse, that, there are no hospitals, these are the problems with the family, and that's why we have mental model. No. The truth is, as human beings, let's understand ourselves. When we have a problem or a challenge, we all feel, oh my God, what's going to happen? And very often, if it's disability, it gets converted to, oh my God, how will I live my life? Right? And that's what happens to a lot of people. So this is a human problem. Human problem is that we all, feel, that I will be dependent if I have a problem. I think it's coming close to the interpreter, change switching. Yeah, let me give it. Thank you so much. My colleagues here are doing a good job. So we'll just wait for the switch. Can I get started, Dr. Renuka? Yeah, super. Yeah. Okay. So just to repeat, we as humans always feel that when there are challenges, it's difficult to handle. And then when it is disability, most people feel, oh, my life is over and I will be dependent. And maybe because you're in the disability sector, you don't feel that way. Let's think of, the regular folks, right? So this mental model, in fact, I would say this is not to do with only people outside the disability sector. If I look, when I talk to a person with locomotor disability and I tell him there are people who are deafblind, that person is thinking, oh my God, if I was deafblind, my life will be over. Then you talk to a blind person and say, there are issues with invisible disability, there are chronic pain. They're like, oh my God, how are they managing it? They must be dependent on others. So trust me, this is a human problem. And this mental model holds things in place. And because of that, why should anybody build a hospital? You're anyway going to be dependent. It doesn't matter if you make this hospital, it's not going to be useful to you. That's why the structures, the physical structures, the practices, the policies are not actually enabling you. Many of you have done a lot of work to make this happen, thanks to the RPWD Act, etc. But otherwise, these structures don't exist for the most part. And therefore, the problem and patterns for the family keeps getting more and more. Each family feels alone. The caregivers on this call, you know what I'm talking about. Each family feels alone. And only because they meet the right people, the right NGOs and right teachers, all of them among you, because of that, some of their problems get alleviated. It gets a little reduced. And because of these mental models, actually, that spinal cord injured person is lying in bed. And so it's the reverse. So in the earlier slide, I showed that the structures and the problem patterns were creating the mental model. But now we realize, no, it's the opposite. It's the mental models which are making these things to happen. And this is where we need to understand what this mental model is. Actually, a mental model starts creating very simple stories. It's like a small narrative of a movie. You saw that movie now. Hero comes, heroine comes, this happens, they fall in love, end of story. It's that short, right? Very small, simple story, a small narrative, we call it, just like a movie. So the real truth is that I may be dependent if there is no hospital, if there is no travel, etc. But we don't want to have this long story in our head. The simple story is when we have challenge, life is over. Spinal cord injury is challenge, life is over. That's as simple as a story that we all have in our mind. Our lives are too complex. We don't want complexity. We want simple stories in our head. And you can take this for any type of issue and you'll find that we have these kind of mental models in our head. So therefore, coming back to the world in crisis, all these issues that we know till now, despite all our hard work, and trust me, I just am so amazed by all the folks in India who are working hard in the development sector. You see the amount of energy, passion, perseverance that everybody is showing. But, these wicked problems are being held in place by these mental models. And we will need to use systems thinking to get rid of it. We know now that below the iceberg. So many of you, the ones, 23% of the folks who said yes, I hope that it still helped you to understand this better, because trust me, when I was doing this, I felt these examples helped me to understand it even better, though I feel I know systems change for years, right? Now, just to take a pause, some important words that we have said, the problem patterns, right? The problems which keep repeating. Next, the structures, right? The policies, the practices, the physical objects, right? Like a hospital, and mental model, that deep belief that we have, even if it's not true, okay? Deep belief. It may not be true, but we have this. So, therefore, what is systems thinking? It's not, in system thinking, we don't work on solving just that barrier. Okay? It's a comprehensive approach to social change. It's a comprehensive. We look at that 90% also, which will address the complexity of all this, so many different aspects, so many different points that have to be taken into account, and each one of us may be working on different parts of it. It's also large scale, and there are deep characteristics of this. That's what we are calling systems thinking overall. I can take a poll at this point, or I could go through the practical examples. What do you suggest? Would you prefer if I'm asking my colleagues? Kavya, do you suggest I go through the practical examples and then do the poll? I just thought of it now, you know.
I mean, we have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We have 5 minutes. It's practical.
Practical. Maybe we. Yeah. I was thinking. Can I have a show of hands or by the participants? Maybe they can just. Would you prefer if I just go to the practical examples and then do the poll? Maybe that'll help more. Now, why are these lines coming on my screen? Really?
Someone's drawing.
Where? No, it's still there on the screen. I have to remove it.
Okay. Mitu is saying practical examples.
Yeah, and then we'll come back to this. Yeah, so we'll actually do the poll later then, right? Okay, so I'll continue. You're not getting any lines on the screen, right?
We have it.
No, I'll have to erase it maybe. Let me just see. I'm not able to erase it. Yeah, I don't know
Shanti ma'am, we'll work on it. Just give us a minute.
Super. Yeah. Okay. So let me just proceed. I hope the pace is okay. Can I just get some yeses on the chat window or some?
Maria said yes, Sabina said yes, Soma said yes.
Okay.
For practical examples.
For the practical examples.
Shruva said practical and then poll.
Poll.
said practical.
Okay, super. Okay.
We have Mitu and Mamta Bush also said yes.
Come here and tell me. Maybe then people will be able to hear you. Yeah, Mitu and Mamta and Soma, Preeti,
yes,
others.
And Mamta and Ashwina.
Okay. So many are saying.
Most of them are saying
let's go through the thing. Yeah.
Practical thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And okay, so let me just proceed. Sorry, there's something on the PPT which they'll hopefully get rid of. Okay. So we know the problem. Now it's not that we all have not been working on this, right? So there is good news. There has been amazing leadership from leaders, leaders with disability. Excellent organizations, many stakeholders in their individual capacity, in their organization, who have gone beyond the tip of this iceberg. They have not looked at only that. Okay. And today, I think you out there who have already done many of these things said in this lovely iceberg, I think today, if you didn't have the language like mental model, you'll start using it. And the other aspects, maybe the language is what you'll use to understand your own behavior. Yeah, oh my God, I've been working on mental models. I didn't even realize it, right? Or you could be a person with disability in a company and you've been doing things to tackle how people look at you. And you've been working on those mental models. But today, hopefully, you're getting the language. So now I'm actually going to take an example of an organization. I'm not naming them because I didn't take their permission, but many of you will know whom I'm talking about because they're an amazing organization. And to use an example with respect to spinal cord injury on what people have done to tackle, the deeper systems thinking related issues. So, in the case of spinal cord injury, organizations have gone deep. And I will request my co-anchor, Kamal Farooq, who is a Soapstone Fellow and Enable India colleague, to tell me, Kamal, have you unmuted yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, super. Thank you so much for that. So, Kamal, when you were studying, you actually got into an accident and you had a spinal cord injury. And then you went to this lovely rehab facility, which is in the south of India. Many of you would know them. And at that time, what was your frame of mind? Did you think, oh, I am going to be able to do all the things that you are doing today?
No,
Is that
never. No, actually, that time I was completely depressed, even my parents. And I was totally hopeless that time. I thought my life is over now. I cannot do anything. But after going to the rehab, they supported me very well. Means they have a very good structure actually. So they set a goal for me during the rehab time. Like I made accident during the second year of my college. So first goal they set that you have to, when you go home, first you have to complete your education. That will be your priority. And same thing, they have given this responsibility to my parents. Wow. So they were also the same responsibility they have given to my parents, that they will support in completing my education. And the next was, after finishing my education, the second goal they set, or they told me that you have to look for some employment or some livelihood opportunity for yourself so that you will not be dependent. And that same thing they have sensitized to my parents also, that you have to support in that. And the third was, when you are well settled and you are, means you feel that you are capable of supporting a family, then you can look for marriage. And for that, before one day before discharging, they called my parents and my brother-in-law who are present in that women's in the hospital with me, and they means not they didn't allow me. They only called my parents and they explained all these things step by step. That when your child will go home, you have to support him in completing his education, in his livelihood, and then if all comes good, then you have to look for his marriage. And now it all done step by step, and now I'm here in Enability and working.
So I didn't ask you this before we start, we're going to do the session, but when this was told to you that you should finish education, employed, and get married, did it help? Because this is the right mental model. We know that the mental model of saying life is over is not true. The right mental model is that you can do your education, employment, and marriage. Did it help you to realize that I don't need to be dependent. I am going to have a life. Did it help to remove that mental model?
Yeah, that really helped actually. The way they took me step by step process, that really helped me. And even if they have set a goal for me, if they would have not given the responsibility to my parents, it was really difficult to overcome this thing and to be here.
Yeah. And I think I think also what I feel about the way they have done it, they've just called it goals. They didn't sit and do counseling. They go, one day, your child, don't worry, he will become great. Would that have helped you? Just, you're great, you're fantastic, you're a hero, you will be an inspiration. Would that have helped, or these goals help more?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I lost that time.
Yeah, no, I said, did it help that they did not sit and just praise you, saying that you are great, you are hero?
No.
Rather than that, just giving goals.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. If they just said, don't worry, your son is a hero, he's a diamond among the whatever, blah, blah, would your parents have done all these things?
No, never.
No. So
No.
this is what we have to understand about mental models, that just these goals and so matter of fact. What is matter of fact? This is the normal. Of course, he has to do his education. Of course, he has to get employed. That is what removed that wrong mental model and brought the right mental model. And interestingly, what I was thinking about is that just because of these goals being given to the family felt equipped that they can actually, solve the problems. Because remember that the problem patterns don't go away for the family. That accessible travel problem will still be there. Finance problem will still be there. Nothing has gone away, by the way. This is the interesting part. I was just thinking about it. What did this organization do? Chumma gave goals. They didn't help Kamal. Poor thing, every day. They didn't help him with this. They didn't help him with that. But the truth is, what is an equipment? I purposely have used the word equip. We were discussing this, right, in our meetings, our content meetings, right? Equipment is what? Like, it could be a life jacket. It could be a hammer. It could be, a screwdriver, something like that, right? For the family, it's like they've got that hammer or whatever, hatoda, even a hammer in place, just with that goal. With that goal, it's like finish education. That they felt equipped. That now it doesn't matter. They don't have all the solutions. The hospitals are still far away. They suddenly did not come close. The structures did not change. But somewhere, when the mental model changes, people move heaven and earth and they make things happen. And the truth is that, Kamal, today you are supporting your family members. You were talking something about a house?
Yes. So actually here, now that when I returned home, actually now the total responsibility came to me, and I was, after completing my education, I was involved in before coming to India, I was teaching. Okay.
And making good money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I started means my own coaching center. Then I came to Enable. I did fellowship. Then I came to Enable India. All was from that mental model actually, which was means done in rehab.
Yeah.
So I took different responsibilities in different time. I supported my family. Now, then the last was a marriage. So after marriage, because of that, I am in Bangalore now because that's the support I got from family.
Wonderful. So this has become the new narrative. This has become the new story in the head that actually you can support your family and persons with spinal cord injury can support the family. And if we can make this the new narrative for all spinal cord injury, because it's the truth, right? Despite these structural issues. But now when that narrative comes, more structures will get produced for the people with spinal cord injury, right? So the most important thing here to understand is not just about the mental model. I've shown a picture here with all sorts of tools. System change begins when the main actors, we use the word actor. In systems change, we always use the word actors. So in this, Kamal is the primary or main actor along with his family. When the main actors in the system are equipped, they're given the right tools, right, to solve the problem. The main actor, it cannot be, the government only has one tool and gives you. It's can we give the equipment in your hand? Because you are closest to the problem. How can anybody else know what will work for Kamal? Where does Kamal stay? What is the right thing for him? Right? You, Kamal, and your family will be the best to solve the problem. And I think that therein lies an answer. It's not just, oh, he did now, he's doing very good. We have to understand the details of this. Okay, thank you so much, Kamal, for that. Let me move on.
Thank you.
I think everybody, if you can just give a little show of likes and hearts or something like that. I hope you're seeing some likes and hearts.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
There's one heart.
Yeah. Good.
And actually, Sudha also said that day to dream and work on dream action with art.
Yeah.
And she also said it's such a holistic approach of teamwork at a personal level. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a holistic and teamwork at a personal level.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Brinda says dependence to independence.
Dependence to
paradigm
independence.
shift to mental model.
Yeah. I hope the interpreters can hear Rupa, right, when she's talking. Yeah, she's hearing. Yeah, good. And anything else in the chat window?
Yeah, that's all.
Awesome.
Ajit says inspiring.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
Super. And now let's move on to live from Delhi. Thoda, let's make it a little. हमारे पास निपुण जी. Okay, I shouldn't talk in Hindi because we want the subtitles to come clearly. So live, one of my co-anchors, Nipun Malhotra. He is the founder of Nipman Foundation. He's an activist, very well known in the corporate sector. He's done his economics from Stevens College, which is like one of the premium organizations. And he's also a consultant at Enable India. So welcome, Nipun.
Hi, Shanti. Lovely being here.
Hi, good to see you. And Nipun, I know you come running from your exams, doing law and this, that. So thank you for being with us. I think I want you to start with, we've heard how mental model can cause a problem. In your own case, if you can just explain a little bit more of the process that your family went through and with respect to the mental models, right?
Right.
Just before you get started, my colleague here, Shrishti, tells me that we have to have an interpreter shift. So let's give a minute for that.
Yep.
And then we get started. So we'll have our third interpreter, Shiboy, to get started. I think inclusion is very beneficial. I could drink a little water in the meantime. Awesome. Yes, Nipun, please go ahead.
Yeah, before I go into the mental models and what my family went through, just a bit about my disability. I was born with this disability called arthrogryposis, which basically means that the muscles in my arms and legs are not fully developed, and they would stay like that throughout my lifetime. I'm a wheelchair user. Those who've never met me in person obviously cannot see that on Zoom. So just a disclaimer in that sense, because I think that's an important context while explaining the mental models of my family. When I was born, this was in September 1987, and I was taken out of my mother's womb. My arms and legs were fully fractured, my body was bleeding, etc. And doctors came up with a very gloom and doom prognosis. What they actually told my mother is that Nipun is going to live the life of a wooden doll. And I think
stop slowly. Can you repeat that sentence again? It's a very important one. And already I had to do it by
No, sorry. Please keep reminding me when I speak too fast. In that sense, I think our sign language interpreter screen is also frozen. So
Yeah.
should I just
Are they having a problem? Yeah, it looks frozen. Just give a second. Uh, Renuka or Saurabh, can you check that out? Okay, Saurabh is back. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Nipun. Yeah. We'll pin this.
yeah. So would you like me to start from the beginning or?
No, just from that, what happened when you came
Yeah.
out of
So when I
this?
was taken out of my mother's womb, this was in September 1987.
Oh.
This was 8 years before India's first Disability Act also came up. As you know, disability came up in 1995, the PWD Act. So there was not much recognition for disability in that sense.
Yeah.
And a child coming out fractured, etc. Instead of really giving a medical condition and what are the what is the situation related to that condition, doctors gave a very subjective opinion to my mother. They said Nipun is going to live the life equivalent to a wooden doll. And I think that could have actually led to a destruction of my life in that sense, because what could have happened is that negative mental model could have reinforced itself in her life with her getting helpless and desperate and not knowing what to do. But I think what happened is that amongst the dozens of doctors that she went to, there was one who actually told her that Nipun is never going to deprive you of the joys of parenthood. And I think that is what really changed my life in that sense. Because when she realized that Nipun is not going to deprive the joys of parenthood for her, she realized that I'm not going to deprive Nipun of the joys of normal life. When it was time to send me to school, for example, there were a lot of people who said, let's send Nipun to a special school, or let's homeschool him. He cannot cope in a normal school, etc. But she insisted that eventually Nipun has to face the normal world. So we can't really protect him by sending him to a special school. We don't want this kind of protection. We want him to be ready for the world in that sense. And there were dozens of schools that rejected me before there was this one school that judged me for what I could do and not what I could not do. But that doesn't mean my problems really ended there. For example, I know I was pretty good in school. I was good in academics, etc. I'm all, and I always felt, that I cannot bat as great as Sachin, but I can easily top the class as well as anybody else. So I'm on an equal footing there. But I remember early on in my school, this was in junior school, my class teacher called my mother to school and said that, I'm not going to promote Nipun. And my mother said, why? And she said that, I cannot read Nipun's answers. I cannot read his handwriting. He knows everything, but I will only promote him if his handwriting improves in that sense. So my mother gave her a very good response. He said that if you're not going to promote Nipun because of his handwriting, it might be a good idea that Nipun stays in this class for the rest of his life because his handwriting is not going to improve. So you either promote him based on his intellect or you just tell me what you want to do. Luckily, sense prevailed and I was promoted to the next class. But I think as a person with a disability, what I've also realized is that life is about problem solving in various situations. For example, I know that when I was a kid, a lot of people used to say Nipun cannot eat food, etc. He will not manage eating. Somebody will have to feed him. But luckily, my mother came up with this creative solution because she realized that I cannot lift my hand against gravity. So how will I have a soup or a spoon of dal or something? So for example, if there's dal on a bowl and I cannot lift my hand to reach the top of the bowl, why not have another bowl upside down on which I can rest my hand? And we used to call it the ulti katori in that sense, on which I'll put my hand and, so that from there I can eat easily. Or whenever there's any liquid that I need to drink, whether it was water at that time or tea when I grew older or gin right now, I've had everything through a straw.
Nipun,
So,
sorry, Kavya here. You'll have to be a little slow, please.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. When I get into the
Inclusion is a process. So
yes.
actually good, when we get to remind you, we are reminding myself also, by the way. Don't worry.
So recently I put up a LinkedIn post, and I put up all the image descriptions because I knew Shanti will be the first one to see them and comment specifically on that. And that's what, luckily she noticed that and I was very happy, So inclusion is a process. And I think what we are all are learning in that sense, and I think that is universal for everybody in the disability sector, is that everybody has to learn from everybody else when it comes to inclusion in that sense. Because I remember, for example, when I was speaking with Jija, in fact, who's again another consultant at Enable India, she has CP, and I was finding it uncomfortable making her repeat because of the way she talks, etc. And because she has a problem in terms of communicating, etc. But she actually told me that no, Nipun, I'll find it a bigger insult if you do not make me repeat rather than you making me repeat things over and over again. Another example of problem solving, again from outside my life. And Shanti, I know I've taken too much time, so this is going to be my
No,
last
no,
example.
not at all. I think these solutions also help us to understand how there are patterns of problems, right, which repeat for you, but like, for example, one teacher being sensitive or not, or understanding that you should get promoted to the next class. These patterns don't go away. And so the solutioning has to be constantly done by the family. I mean, over a period of time, we want to address this systemic, through a systems approach. But it's important for us to see the kind of issues that people have had and how they have approached it with solutions. So please go ahead.
So I was going to actually give an example when I give the Jesus example also about how I'm also constantly learning about accessibility. I remember
tell about, just come back to the problem patterns that you faced when you were a childhood. You talked about the Ulta Katori,
right.
Other things that your parents or anything else, if you can talk about that.
So, for example, I remember when I was small. I mean, today I read all my textbooks on laptops or on Kindles, etc. But at that time, technology had not advanced to that particular extent. And some of our textbooks were very fat. I'm sure some of you who've gone to CBSE schools would have seen the big fat R.S. Agarwals and R.D. Sharmas for mathematics or the other fat science textbooks. I did not have the physical strength to hold those textbooks in my hand. So what, for example, we used to do is that we used to actually go to somebody who used to bind these books, and we used to actually have them physically cut into 3 or 4 parts and then have them bound separately, so that one fat book becomes 3 or 4 small books, so that I can hold them in that sense, So these were some of the innovations that were used by me or by my family to ensure that I live a normal and independent life. And I think problem solving as a person with a disability really comes naturally to a person or to the family in that sense. And thank you. I think that's all.
And Nipun, my question to you is, if that other mental model, so I had actually shown on the screen, just in the beginning, that your son will be like a wooden doll. If that mental model had been there with your parents, you would be dependent till today. Because, your parents would not have, actually, we are all capable of solutions, only if we have the right mental model, isn't it? So when your mother and your parents came to know that there will be a joy in Nipun's life, that means he will be able to do everything that others do. So then you try and find a solution for it. Do you think that is why it worked?
No, absolutely. In fact, there's a small joke that I crack about my disability certificate, that in India, people are given percentages in disability certificates, whether you're 20%, 40, 60, 80, 100 or whatever. And medically, my disability is 100% disability. But when my mom had gone to get my medical certificate, she felt that Nipun cannot be 100% disabled. And she insisted that iska above 80% likhwao. So, the word above, I think I'm the only one in the country who has a certificate that doesn't say 80% or 100%. It has a vague thing which says above 80%. I might be the only one in the country in that sense.
Actually, you do require caregivers with you. So it may be up, and I love that, because that's the mental model, So I thank you so much for this. And I hope people are getting an idea about, how, if we can now not have these parents have these kind of issues at mainstream school, and these solutions for daily problems should get addressed in a systemic way. But just with the mental model, how much more is possible? Let's understand that, right? Okay, I move on to, thanks so much, Nipun. I move on to Aleem Chandani, another co-anchor of mine. Aleem, during his lifetime, has actually founded many organizations. He is the mission leader for a collective called Here a Million. And he's also my colleague, I'm proud to say that. And I think I had asked Aleem that, can you just, go through a little bit of your life, especially the early stages and after 21, etc., just to give us a picture of how, the systems existed for just to understand mental models and things of that nature. Aleem, if you can go ahead. I hope you have somebody who's going to speak on your behalf. Yeah.
Yes. Saurav is there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Aleem.
Just waiting for Saurav to respond.
Yeah. Saurav has to get pinned because he's going to do the. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, great. Hello, everyone. So yes, I want to share my story, my life. So I was born in Bombay, India, and my parents at that time, they waited about a year or two and figured that, I'm different. So the doctor said that, yes, your child is deaf. My parents, of course, were really panicking because that time in India, the educational system, the accessibility for the deaf was very at a very nascent stage, and nobody was aware of all these things. So they decided that it's best that I get a better chance at life, and we moved to US. So I was 3 years old at that time. My parents were told by the doctor that it will be great if I use amplification, hearing aid devices, and all of that, and practice speech, and try to become just like a hearing person. And the thing was that by that, if the mental model was that by speaking, I would be able to be integrated well in a hearing world, in a mainstream world. So that's how I grew up. But internally, I always felt different. My parents would, say things like that. It's okay, you're normal. There's nothing wrong. You can hear with that hearing aid. You can speak, nothing. But I knew that that was not so. There was something different. I knew it. Then it was not until college that I met many, many deaf people who also used speech, but were signers as well. They used ASL. So, I thought that I told you, we had these conversations that, that I'm okay, I'm going to speak and it's okay. But they told me a lot of things that you can also choose to sign, it's your language. And I realized that these issues, these barriers, this lack of clarity, it really helped when I got so much of validation because I already understood, I knew these things, right? And my parents didn't know, they were trying to integrate me into a world. But before that, I also had to understand independently, understand my identity, develop my leadership skills. And, that's how years later, I wanted to come back to India because the same experience is what many, many deaf children face. So under Enable India, the Hear a Million project, which we have, we are focusing on building a collective of institutions focusing on early education, special education for the deaf, organization, NGOs working in different sectors, focusing on more about communication options, language options. So that is my story. I'm so happy that I'm part of this change, this big change.
Aleem, it's such a big deal, right? That your parents had to go to America because they didn't feel the structures existed here. Even till today, we know there are 300 to 500 deaf schools, but perhaps then there were maybe God knows how many. And same thing like less hospitals, extremely less deaf schools. But the fact that you have come back here is because you don't want this to happen to anybody else. Let parents not have to move out of the country, right? Be in the country, your homeland. I think that is why Year a Million is so important. And, for the longest time, as part of systems thinking, we've been working in collectives. And I think after I started writing all this on systems thinking, you and I have been discussing that we need to get more scientific about it. So though everybody on this call may be thinking that, systems thinking is understood by, say, me and Deepesh because we did the course, or even before that because I did understand it. I think the problem with all of us, even on this call, is we know some of these things, but we have to keep applying it every single time. That is, it's a science. We have to apply it every time. And I think Aleem and I just kind of said, we are going to work really and apply this every single time. So I think, that was very important that we spoke that, and we'll continue that journey. And I think I want to say one thing, Aleem, this wrong mental model that your parents had, it's not them. It's nothing to do with them. Right? He should not be different from society. He should fit society norms. This is a very human problem. And I think, especially from a deaf perspective, right? I think what you have told me that everybody, and this I've noticed, right? Speaking is the only language. It's as if sign is not even a real language. And you have told me about the sign language deprivation, right? So the mental model is sign is not even a real language. And hence, structurally, an education school may not give, or even at early intervention stage, sign language may be deprived. We're not trying to say speaking is a problem. So there are a lot of oral deaf, and I'm glad that they've been able to get speech. But if a deaf person is naturally signing, it's stopped. That's where the problem lies, right? So I think these are the things we will address, hopefully. I would like you to talk a little bit about, I mean, I was shocked when you told me what happened in the 1800s. And I think this will help people to understand how these mental models even start, right? Sometimes. Yeah, go ahead.
So before the 1880, all countries, sign language was allowed, there was even hearing people would learn sign language. It was natural, it was allowed just as other spoken languages. There was no barrier, ban, or such scrutiny. And India also, in 1880, there were about four deaf principals. So there were schools which were run by deaf principals. So that means deaf people were there. They were, in academics, they were smart. But until the ICED conference in 1881, International Congress of Educators for the Deaf. Yeah, that is the full form, ICED. They all, every 5 years, have this meeting. And this is in Milan, in Italy, in 1880, where they come together and decide. And this was mostly that Alexander Graham Bell was also involved in this meeting. And that time he was very, very, influencing. So they decided together that spoken language is the best for all deaf children and no sign language should be allowed. So that event and that decision, that mental model spread all around the world. They banned sign languages everywhere. And they changed everything in the education system to match the hearing, way of teaching. And that is how language deprivation started, But in 2011, in Vancouver, Canada, the same organization came back again. So, of course, they had their 5-year Congress. The presidents of that organization apologized publicly that this was the gravest mistake they made to ban this language. Acquisition of skills, acquisition of all, learnings. Sign language helps all of that. So imagine so many years because of that just one sentence which said sign language is not, or spoken language is better. So that mental model, imagine how much of reworking we had to be done. And now that system, that becomes the wicked problem, right? So that is why it's taking so much time, but the amount of efforts that we are putting in and needs to be put in. So.
Oh my God, Aleem, I just can't get over this because, when we are far away and let's say there's a glass between us and we have to talk and you can't hear me, we all, let's say I want water, we do signs. It's a natural language. That is why, surprisingly, it was not a mental model, obviously, for many years, till the 1800s, as you're saying. And why this, example is very important is because, we are understanding the power of influential people. What happens? So Graham Bell obviously invented the telephone, etc. I think he was deaf himself, or he was hard of hearing, or something. There's some reason also he behaved this way. So whatever it is, no, he was not.
It was his wife who was deaf.
Yeah. Something was there. I was, whatever those reasons are, right? But what the power of one, influential people can do. And later you're going to see one of the main, for me, the biggest takeaway from Harvard was how do we put the power away from people with influence and how can it be given back to the people who should have the power? And we all will think, what power? It lies only with some people. And that's something that got broken at Harvard. So I'm going to talk about that a little later. But thank you so much, Aleem, for this, because hopefully people will remember the examples that you've said and what Nipun and Kamal have said. Let me just move on to another example very quickly. Thank you, Aleem. If you all can just put some likes and hearts, etc., for Aleem and Nipun.
Shanti, we also have some chats if you can.
What are those? What are some of those? Anything that I have to specifically?
One is Digvijay has a question
that will get answered later. I think Digvijay is asking how do we?
Yes, who is responsible for breaking the big iceberg?
Yes. So who will be responsible for breaking that iceberg? We are going to answer that. We will give some examples. We'll talk of the work we have done and then what we all can do, Digvijay. So, just wait for that. Anything else?
And there are comments as well. Like Padmavati says, labeling the person judgmental for this one. And
what is Padmavati saying?
Padmavati saying, labeling the person judgmental. This is about Nipun's story when we were actually talking. How a teacher actually said that now.
Yeah, and we for us, we don't really want to feel that person is being judgmental. This is a human challenge. If we can understand this and not, if they are judging Nipun, we may also be judging this doctor. So I think we need to understand it as a human problem, and a mental model is something that we all humans have, right? Yeah.
And also Alisha Manta says, I absolutely agree about the inappropriate percentage marking for the disability in certificates.
Yeah.
And also Gausia Ali also says about disability certificate, like my disability certificate is totally wrong. Let's talk about it in a different workshop. Yeah. That's what she says. And again, Padmavati B saying that integrating in the society should not the goal. Person himself should get inclusive in the society is the aim.
Yeah.
So that's a great point understood.
And if we can give those tools and equip people, they can make themselves inclusive itself, Yeah, absolutely.
And many of them actually spoke about very enlightening stories.
I'm also now looking at the chat. Dr. Veena is like defining and enhancing the boundaries and defining it through the circle of competence. Correct. We are kind of changing those boundaries, and with the competencies, we'll be able to do much more. Very interesting. So basically, we had sign language, but the systemic, decision. Yes, absolutely, Dr. Anubha. Very correct. And I think influential people like medical professionals create the first mental. Padmavati, you have hit the nail on the head. If any work we do in the future, if we can make the doctor say it, it makes a big difference. And that's why Kamal Farooq's story is so true, right? When that doctor told it to the family, oh my God, like doctors like God, right? A salute to the spirit demonstrated by Kamal, Nipun, and Alim. And I think it's very important, Ajita, for all of us to see the spirit of the family and the people who kind of defied that mental model. They kind of rejected the wrong mental model, right? And I think super. Thank you so much. Please keep your comments coming. It's really helpful. Let me just very quickly, we are almost out of time, but very quickly, I just want to get Usha ma'am, who has vast experience in corporates and in NGO world, etc. And if you can speak a little bit about from a neurodiversity perspective. So we kind of covered different disabilities. Usha ma'am, are you there?
Oh, yes, I am there.
Yeah.
I'm very much here. Yeah. I just want to quickly touch upon this very basic mental model that we talk about. A neurodiverse person is lesser than a neurotypical person. It seems very simple when you listen to it, but that also then means the neurodiverse person is not capable of doing anything in life. So if the person is incapable, why even invest time on the person? So it's like, and it's a genuine thing. It's not that you're, even if you have 3 children and 1 child is like that, you will feel sorry for the child and see how you can protect the child, but you don't want to really do anything because you think anyway the person is not capable. And if you see, what it has led to is that when we worked on the mental models, I want to talk a positive side of it, is that when you rightly said, how do you equip the primary actors? When we equip the parents with aspirations and we equip the individual with aspirations, things completely changed for us. And in a collective model, something that we were not able to achieve in a decade's time before we started something like Mission 1000, I'm sure you're going to talk about that, with just 100 opportunities coming in a decade's time before Mission 1000, in 3 years, being able to create 2,400 plus opportunities for neurodiverse individuals was a great shift because we were able to address the mental model and give and equip the primary actors. I think I will say that and stop because we will be taking
up. And I think it's important because somehow we think making eye contact is the most important thing. If I am neurodiverse and I don't make eye contact, what if the entire world was neurodiverse and you are the only neurotypical? Then how do then maybe making eye contact is almost wrong. In fact, I think there are some cultures where making direct eye contact may not be correct. So I think these very restrictive things where we decide somebody is lesser, and because of that, then there are less education institutions. Or I have seen sometimes even the parents or the team, like, don't do this way, bro. Like, I can tell you that there are times when I've told a person with neurodiversity that try and make some eye contact because, by the time we make others understand that you are, equal. So you want them to try and make some amount of eye contact only for that reason, but not because, I'm feeling that the person is lesser, just because the world doesn't understand the person otherwise, That's the issue. So I think, these are the kind of mental models at play. And now what we will do is, I'll just go, thank you so much, Usha ma'am. I'll just take an opportunity to tell you what our realization has been, at Enable India. We've known that there was something transformational that we were doing in our training, but now I'm able to articulate it in a systems thinking language, Shivoy, before I continue, should we shift you now, Shivoy? Because it's almost 1:05. I know in the middle, I think Saurav had to take over. You can continue or
I'm continuing.
Okay, just let me know because I won't know otherwise how much time. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're fine. Okay, so in our training, what we realized was that yes, there are people who come from a background of how their family behaved with the mental model of my child, being very protective. How is this person going to go and work in a company, finish targets, do the things that are required, do things with responsibility? Sometimes you'll have more work, all those kind of things. So our training worked for transformation. That we knew. But now I realized we were working at the mental model level and knowing that I am dependent, etc. So how did we equip that person with disability to get ready on their own? How did we do that? Actually, very simple. We gave, what is that equipment? What is that hammer we gave? We were always telling the candidate, we expect from you, that you can take charge of your own life. We believe you can take charge and start that in the training. So I think it's best to show an example, otherwise it won't make sense. So let me actually do that and, just play a simple example of what we do in our training. Many of you know this if you have attended our training of trainers, employability, TOT, etc. But let me just play it. It's got audio description and, I think you will be able to see then what is happening. Hold on.
Visually impaired student Nitin is the attendance manager for the week. Nitin takes attendance from the tactile board into his voice recorder. Nitin goes to the first row and finds the student's name in Braille. He now goes to the different tactile columns and finds Friday. He feels a full circle for Augustine. Feels a small circle for Asha.
Augustine, on time. Asha, late.
And feels an empty cell for Bindu Kumari.
Absent.
Nitin listens to the recorder and updates it in the computer.
On time. Asha, late.
P. Enter. Blank L. Enter.
Bindu Kumari, absent.
Blank L.
So I think with this very simple example, what we're showing you is by the first week when the candidates come, they become managers for different things, so the attendance manager, session manager, etc. I remember in our intellectual disability autism training, when we were doing it in a collective, a very amazing example was one of the students was a manager for something and she was absent the next day. And when the trainer comes to class, there is already some manager assigned to her, whatever she was supposed to do. The trainer was very surprised, like, how come you're doing that girl's management, whatever she's supposed to do? So that the other person says, yeah, before this girl left, she said, yes, I'm the attendance manager. Tomorrow I'm absent. Can you please make sure you do the attendance the next day because I'm not there in class? Now, just imagine this is the kind of skill you take then to the job and you will do it for life. But whereas if your parents never expected much from you, just because society also says, what will this person do? You will behave like that in your company. So that's why this becomes very important. Let me just take another example. Here I'm showing the deaf who have to do role simulations. And I think, by the way, many of you do these kind of things, and I hope you're able to recognize how you've been working on your own the mental models, right?
Students are working on indexing on the computers.
Finished your exercise. But you took more time. Why?
Tell me. It was very hard. We need more time. It was very difficult.
More difficult.
It was confusing.
I did not know shortcuts.
Shortcut. First time, sir. Sir.
I am giving you same exercise second time, but lesser time.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
You must improve. Learn. Try.
Day 2. Students are doing indexing for the second time.
So I think what we realize now is that because of making sure that the candidate expects more from themselves, then they are able to do the work just like everybody else or even better, and more importantly doing it with efficiency, with quality, etc. And hence, because of that, now today we see that 81% are supporting their families and 56% are the only earning member in the family. And more importantly, the person with disability is earning anywhere between minimum wage to 1 crore, just like anybody else in society. So this narrative change has happened because we addressed the mental model. And today we are able to say the person with disability are taxpayers. They are active citizens, which means they are, supporting their family, they're doing volunteer work, many other things, right? They are change makers and nation builders. This is not restricted to me. Each of us may have done some systems work without you knowing it. You may be a person with disability, NGO company, etc. So I think you just need to get that language for you to understand what you have done and what you still need to do. I think now's the time, maybe, if we can take the poll on the systems change aspect. I'll stop my screen. Can I just have that earlier poll to whether people have a better understanding of systems change? And after we do that, we'll also launch the third poll after this. Frank, can you go ahead?
Yes. Right, it's on.
Okay, so do you understand systems change a little better now? Yes, no, somewhat. Do you understand systems change a little better now? Yes, no, somewhat. I'm feeling like no election polls. We're waiting for the results. Yeah. How many do you have, Frank?
81 out of 114.
Okay. Just wait for about 4-5 seconds. Otherwise, just close it.
All right, we're stuck at that, so we'll close.
Yeah, please close. I don't want to lose more time. Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so now from 23%, we have jumped to 84%. Thank you so much. And we don't have any no's. We have somewhat of 16%. That's so true, right? We can't be so clear that we know everything about system change. So thank you so much for that. I'm feeling something has been achieved. And a lot of work by the content team people. Next question, please. Rupa, we can rest a little.
Ma'am, I need recording of this. Okay.
Yeah, you need, absolutely. I wanted to say that in the beginning. Thanks, Nitin, for telling that. We will be doing the recording and we are recording it on the computer, because of which the sign language interpreter will also be there. I'm assuming, Nitin, you are able to
understand what.
Right? I hope you're seeing the subtitles well. Okay, if you can mute now. Do you now understand what a mental model means? Yes, no, somewhat. Do you now know what a mental model means? Yes, no, somewhat. Frank, when you reach around 80, just go ahead and we'll close it because of the interest of time.
Right, so we have 83 participants out of 84 out of 112, so I'll end the poll.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, super. So 85%, it's an increase from 18% to 85%. Now you're understanding mental model. No is around 1%. Yeah, I can understand that. There's so much more to learn. And somewhat is 14%. That has dropped from 26%, which is good. So thank you so much for that. Very useful. And I think, is this the last of the second poll? Then we can go on to the third one, which was about, for people in the organizations and all the folks here. I think I want you all to think about, don't think you've not done systems work. You have been doing it. I don't want us to think that, right? Sometimes you don't realize. I'm talking to our Enable India colleagues, the entrepreneurs who are there on the call. People like Brinda have told that she has worked on systems change before, but overall, the others, I hope you realize you have worked on some aspects of these. So can we have that poll, please? First of all, we want to ask you, is there an urgent need for systems change? Do we feel that? Didn't we already have this? I thought, no, it's come out. Yeah. Is there an urgent need for systems change? Yes, no, somewhat. Is there an urgent need for systems change? Yes, no, somewhat. Frankie, when you get to 80, just do it quickly. We are running out of time.
All right.
I think, no, I actually was expecting some other question, frankly. So anyway, just show me the answer for this. I think we already had that before, I felt. Oh, no, we didn't have it actually, correct. I'm sorry, yeah. Yeah, can you go ahead and show in the poll? Yes, so 94%, what a lovely thing, right? So when we come to the actions in the end, I'm expecting all you 94% folks to want to do some action, okay? We will come to that. Somewhat is 6%. Nobody's saying no. Thank you for that, because it's so true, isn't it? Oh my God. It's like, I think we should be having 110% as yes or something like that, right? It's that big a problem. Yeah, quickly just go through the other ones. The next question should be, do you now?
This segment only these many questions.
Yeah. The third poll, which is saying, do you now realize you have done some part of systems work? Okay. Yes, no, somewhat. And then the next one will be about the language. Or if you don't, yeah, okay. Do you now realize you have done some part of systems work? Maybe you worked on a little bit on the mental model. Nothing little bit, you may have worked a lot, trust me. Is it a yes, a no, or somewhat? You would have done something. There is no question of all of you are interested people. You could be a person with disability, you could be a parent, you could be somebody or the other. Please answer this. This is very important. You could be an educator. Yeah, as a researcher, Kritika, I understand. But think about how your research, Kritika, takes care a lot. You're working on some very, very important things. Yeah. And, hi, it's nice to see Shivaji is joining us all the way from UK. So yeah, Kritika, coming to you, you have, whatever you do is working on mental models in many ways, especially what you're doing on legal guardianship, if you ask me. Okay.
We have 86, so I'll end the poll.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, end it, please. Yes. So how cool is this? 76% say yes. So big round of applause to all of us. No is 2% and somewhat 22%. This is what I expected. Please, I want claps for all of us. Everybody, come on, put some claps. Yeah. To yourself. Shabash therapy.
Veena, Usha.
Yeah, Veena, Usha, Kritika, Mamta, many others. Jaya or Sushma, sabki pasand systems change. Okay. Yeah. Now, yeah, I see many more. Yeah, can you go to the next question quickly? Are you getting the language to explain what you've done? This is very important. You may have been doing things, but are you getting the language to explain what you've done? And there will be more language coming, by the way, but still, are you getting the language? Yes, no, somewhat. I think we're getting really running out of time, Frank. So do the poll, yeah. And then we'll shift Shivoy after that. Shiva, I think now, yeah.
Just one thing. This I would like to say that there are so many people in grassroots level and from Gram Panchayat and Gaons. from small cities, so they don't even know English better. And even deaf, if you see deaf, their English is not as we speak. So, or there are Hindi language people, I mean to say, those who speak only Hindi, they don't know much about English language. So this session is in English completely, and my English is also average. My English is not good, but I think this kind of knowledge base, whatever you have, this
We should give it.
so it should, yeah. So this should be accessible to all, to pan-India basis. The kind of knowledge you have shared right now in this session. This is what I think you have understood what I mean.
Absolutely, and thank you for saying that. For me, it's so important to make it language friendly. And generally, we do this session in multiple languages, usually, right? Because of the subtitles and other reasons, we have kept it like this. But Nitin, if you want it for any section of population, we'll do it. Right? I think it's very important to do it. Thank you so much. One big heart for you. So yes, are you getting the language to explain? Yes has been 58%, somewhat is 39%. And I agree with you, it's not that we have all the language. So, and no is around 3%. Okay, so now let me just quickly move on, because we need to really cover the main thing, which is the systems thinking's fundamentals. Ab pate ki baat. Now we are coming to the main point. How do we apply systems thinking? Before we start, I just want to tell you again some of the important words which we've been using, the word actor. In a system, we always use the word actor. Primary actor is the person who's closest to the context. Context is the environment, right, of that social issue, which means the person who is facing the issue, right, the lived experience of the issue. It could be a person with disability in case of disability, or their parents. Or even you as an NGO enabler, when you're closer to that, you could have the lived experience when you're giving employment to somebody. A supporting actor is who supports that change, especially enablers, and companies, even NGO folks are more supporting actors. Now, to apply systems thinking, there are 5 main points which I'm going to cover today. The first is adaptive leadership. There are others which I'll come to. The first is adaptive leadership, which is about learning together to solve collectively. What do we mean by this? What is she talking? Let's take the example of vaccination, and that's where we'll understand this better. When COVID happened, you know that many pharmaceutical companies really worked hard to make the vaccine. It's very technical. How do you make the vaccine? Do you use, they have 100 methods to do it. What's the best way to make it quickly? A lot of leadership required. It's technical leadership. But when you have to make people take the vaccine, it's very difficult to make it happen. Even the difficulty of vaccine will not look too much. And why does that happen? Because there is no trust very often in the healthcare professional, a lot of disinformation. Sometimes it's a religious belief, or my friend doesn't take it, I won't take it, whatever. There are 100 things that happen there. So for making people take the vaccine, your normal technical leadership won't work. You need adaptive leadership. What does that mean? It is how do we all learn together the patterns of the problem? It's like, that iceberg, you can only see up to the tip. When these problems happen, you're able to see different levels of that iceberg. Maybe you're seeing some mental model. Maybe you're seeing some structure, whatever it is. And mostly it'll be a mental model, right? And we need to learn together how to solve it. You will try some solution, and then you will talk amongst each other and then solve it. So adaptive leadership is that. So adaptive leadership looks beyond the tip of the iceberg and not only at that small, at that. And it works on a change in narrative. The people who are adaptive leaders work on that change in narrative. Like I gave you the example, that persons with disability being an active citizen or a taxpayer. The adaptive leader learns how to equip or give what is needed to the primary actor. Okay, and you equip that primary actor to be their own problem solver. I'll give some examples. And if you remember what Aline had spoken about, how just one powerful person made this change and sign language no longer is considered a language. How do we make the adaptive leader works constantly to learn? How do we make the person who does not have power, how do we make them powerful? And the last is obviously the structural changes. That's the leadership required. So I'm now going to call upon Rupa. Maybe it's better if you're in this place only, because otherwise you'll echo here. Is it? Yeah. Better you be here only. Okay. So I'm just going to call on Rupa to is a senior colleague at Enable India, and she's been handling candidate success. Very dedicated professional, has worked with profound disability. That means people with multiple disability and has ensured they've got jobs. So, for example, somebody who cannot hear, see, or speak, that is a deaf blind person getting a job. People with cerebral palsy, etc. Now, she's going to talk to you about a personal example which happened with her regarding vaccine. And we are wondering whether we should have applied adaptive leadership there. Can you come closer?
Yes. Thank you, Shanti. I mean, this happened with my mother-in-law and father-in-law when during COVID times I had gone to my in-laws' place to stay over there. And this was like the first vaccine when they asked us to come and take a thing. I think everybody were ready, but both my father-in-law and mother-in-law were not ready at all. Then we had to use that for my mother-in-law is like, actually, you're actually the colleague. I mean, the neighbor who's actually taken it up. When we said that, she's like, no, I'm not taking it. When we told your sister has taken it up, your
so you tried different experiments of breaking the
minds of my mother-in-law, and then we also said, you know what, to the hospital when we went, to the hospital, we went to the nearby hospital. There were like hundreds of people were doing it. It was not that only us we are taking it up. So I was giving her a lot of examples for both my father-in-law and mother-in-law, because it was her sister who took it up and she could also get that confidence. My mother-in-law who took the vaccine, whereas my father-in-law still did not take it up. So he said, okay, maybe I will wait for some more time. But he did not take it, but we could try it out with my mother-in-law because I had tried some different models.
You tried different
experiments with her.
I'm now wondering whether for these kind of things we should have used adaptive leadership. If we all pooled in our knowledge and we are talking, what work you tried there? Oh, you tried this. Oh, maybe he listens to elders. Maybe if his grandfather is doing it, then or a village panchayat leader. So these are the kind of conversations you have as an adaptive leader, so that we learn together and solve.
Yes.
Right?
So in this case, for my mother-in-law, it was her sister who was that person. Who was that person basically who can influence it. That we understood after like some time.
Otherwise, we could have done it.
Exactly.
Okay, so I think I wanted to also give the example of how we learned together to solve during this particular Harvard course. Right? What I did for this Harvard course, not everything about Harvard, but I was saying, I called many people and said, listen, be part of my content team. And I said that I actually understand systems thinking, but it's too crowded in my head. And I don't know how to explain this. I need your help. Right? So I think when you came in, it's not that you knew the answer.
I think when we came in, actually, there were a couple of people who had come in when Shanti has asked, like, who would want to volunteer to be part of this, actually, not being part of the session, but actually conducting the session, working out on conducting the session. So it was like, oh my God, we don't know anything. I'm like, I don't know anything, but let me go and be part of be part of this activity, what happens. And we chose to be for a content. I'm like, I really don't know something, but let's be part of it.
Yeah.
And when we came in, I think the mindset which I came in was, it's like, oh my God, system thinking, it's a very honest fear of unknown. It's already a big word.
Yeah.
Don't know how we will go about it. But I think the kind of step that we took in, we actually took our own colleague Kamal, who went on with understanding his lived experiences. We went deeper inside his life and we understood what happened in his journey. And it was just one part of it. It was not like deeper, but we understood. And it took some time. It was not just one time, right? I remember Shanti was also saying us that I also don't know like how to be going to present it, right? But let's all. But one confidence I think all of us had, which Shanti was also saying us, the experience. I think each one of you have one different experiences. I think with that experiences and the examples, we can make it out. I think that's how we came up with today. By seeing this, we are like, oh my God. It's just so simple.
I want you to understand this because in our this particular course, the primary actors are people like you who are going to join this course. And by equipping you or helping you to help me to solve the problem, I mean, basically to solve your problem, for understanding the course.
Yes.
You know, there are many more actors here on the screen, but by using you as one of the actors, we actually solve the problem. And we have to learn together. Yeah, this is helping. This is a better example. Can you do this? Right? So we learned together. We took time, but we learned together. Thank you so much for that, Rupa. I hope this made sense to you. Please write in the comments whether you like this example, because this adaptive leadership principle is very important. Let me move on, because the next one is even more important. It's about power. How do we put power in the hands of the actors who really need it? And this was a big, I was so surprised when at Harvard they told us that power is, don't think anybody has power. Take your hand, oh, you have a pen in it. Like that, it's not that you have power in your hand. Power is not in anybody's hand. Power, they said, is relational. That is, between two people, power can be there. And I'll explain that in the next slide. So when they said power is potentially for all, each one of us in this call should feel good about this, that yes, we can make a bigger difference. We don't need to think power is in the hands of only one or two people. This is my biggest takeaway from Harvard. And so they explained to us, there is personal power. It could be your skills, your leadership, your personality or whatever. There's also positional power. You're the manager, you're a CEO, you're a minister. But the real power is relational power. I have something you want. The best example is elections. When you are going to vote, you have something the politician wants, which is your vote. So who has power at that time? The power is with the people, and we know it, and we've seen it in this election. The thing is, as soon as now the elected politician is in power, who has the power now? The politician, because now they have resources, funds, blah, blah, etc. So do not think the politician always has the power or the CEO always has the power. No, it's not that way. The power is relational. Do you have something I want? Then you have power over me. That's how we understood it. And this is the biggest thing. If you forget everything in the course, just remember this, right? So what is that resource? Sometimes resources is fund, people, many other things, but there are also psychological resources. I will come to that a little later, right? So my understanding about relational power, I'll just tell you a learning from our work. It's a very simple thing, and all my Enable India colleagues who are on this call, I want us to think about what power we are having on our candidates, and I want us to remove that power a little bit. Like, for example, we have jobs they want, but we do something good. We do give choices. So then there is more power in the hands of the person with disability or the candidate. But still, it's power. There is an inequality there. So we need to think a little bit more about this. That's what I feel, So I will give you another example on power, but I also want to talk of the next principle in systems thinking, which is about connections. We already said that in adaptive leadership, you need to learn together and hopefully you can solve collectively. The best example I can give on changing the power dynamics and with respect to this connections is our Mission 1000, where the Disability NGO Alliance came together and worked together to solve, and it was also, we had companies in it, we had Enable India, and in that, the power was there with us. Why? Because collectives increases the power of the actors. So Mission 1000 was collective power. We were able to take all the work done by everybody. Life skills module from X, employability from another organization. And so we aggregated that work. We also aggregated, we added up the supply, right? 10 candidates from here, 15 candidates from here. So we look more valuable to the company. We have a resource that the company wants, right? We also increased our ability to solve the employment. So our skills increased, so collectively we could do more. So collectives increases our power because we also have a psychological resource. When we told companies to join us, affiliation, what does affiliation mean? When you join something, you can say, I am part of Mission 1000. So there is that is also a very important psychological resource. I have something you want. What is it? When I join your mission, I get a better name in society. I get a better name as a company. I get a better name as an NGO. My funders look better at me. Then achievement, when we achieve together, right? And there is also a morality aspect to it and status. I'm a champion. I'm a Mission 1000 champion. So these are the things we need to start using more and more. I'm not going into more details. Let me take another example, because now I will just talk about applying systems thinking using I already talked about adaptive leadership. I talked about power. I talked about connections. Let me go to the fourth principle, which is equipping the problem solver. We have been discussing it. We have told it in Kamal's example that he was equipped with the goals. We told it in Nipun's example. But let's see, how do we equip the problem solver? For that, I think the best way to explain that, and also how connections can be built between persons with disability, the best example is our Vani, Enable Vani, which is a rural social networking platform. On Vani, different persons with disability network with each other to solve their own problems. I do understand we have WhatsApp, but in WhatsApp, you also have a lot of chatter. Whereas this is a moderated platform. So people put their questions, 10 people answer it, and it's very easy for doing that. Let me show you the power of that. This is a video which I'll have to kind of go to some. Give me a second. I think I should be able to show it from here.
Enable one.
Just give me a
job
second.
vacancy. I came to Bengaluru because of Namavani. My friends informed me that in Namavani, there is a job vacancy in a call center. I got the job and worked for Vindhya Info Private Limited for 11,000 rupees salary. Later, I got to know that there is a vacancy at BGS Blind School, which I subsequently joined. I utilized the golden opportunities given by Namavani.
A rural area is being shown.
When I was young, I was affected by polio. Because of an injection, I have this disability. Every day my mother carried me and dropped me to school. Earlier, I could not walk and I was sitting at home. We had a lot of difficulty at home. I used to think, what would I sit and do? I have 5 kids to look after. I went to a cigarette factory where I learned to put label, roll cigarette and do packing daily. Thus, I could take care of my family. My friends encouraged me to listen to Namavani to get more information on how I can help other persons with disability in my community. Initially, when I listened to the platform, I did not understand what they were talking about, but continued listening to understand it more. On one occasion, I got to know the information of Tumkuru Bal Bhavan, who I was able to meet, and at that time, I got to know about Aadhar Yojana, which is a scheme to get a loan. They gave me a petty shop and rupees 15,000. I got the power and support from Namavani.
Enable one.
So I think what you saw there was that every person with disability or the family or can be their own problem solver. If we can give the right tool, in this case, it was a simple platform where connections are being built at scale very quickly. 100 people can answer one person's problem. So today we actually have almost 4 users coming every minute. We've had more than 1 lakh people who have used this platform. And we need to think of more solutions like this, where the connections, rapid connections can increase, where we learn together quickly. Now, let me just take equipping problem solver and just think of an example from Enable India, which and by the way, while I'm telling these examples, I want you all to think of your own examples, okay? We have been thinking, how can we equip our primary actor, a person with disability, to take a decision on their employment? For many years, when nothing much had been done, we had come up with the tools. We are happy with that. But now, can we make the tool such a way that the actor themselves can make a decision? And that's where we had come up with this Margadarshi Decider tool, which is more in the rural area, where we are asking some questions like, do you have land? Are you only 5th standard education? Maybe we're not telling you, but we're saying for such things, self-employment may be more suitable. So we are giving the information and then you are ticking and then you're deciding, yeah, I think I want to do this. You can still decide whatever you want, but you take that decision, but with all the data and information that we are providing to you. So I've spoken about adaptive leadership, reconfiguring power and problem-solving connections. And now I'm going to go to changing narrative, which is one of the most important things to talk about. I think there needs to be an interpretership. Can we just have the next interpreter? I think we should maintain this best practice forever. Really, it's so nice for the interpreters and the deaf folks. I hope the deaf folks are finding it easy and I hope the hard of hearing are able to see the subtitles. Okay, let me move on. So what is our experience in changing the narrative? This is a very interesting example that we've understood mental models, but you know that the families has to be tackled first. And because they need to have a changed narrative, because they are staying together. That disabled person is staying with their family. You as an NGO worker or a company person or a friend or a teacher comes and goes. family is always together. How do we tackle that mental model? So what we did was we equipped the problem solver, the person with disability, to solve their own problem. What they do as part of the social integration project, which they do in the employability training, they sit and discuss how they're going to take care of things in their own family. They think of the one aspect which their parents have never allowed them, and they do some solution for it, make a video and show it to their parents or show their parents directly. I will show you a video now of the girl in the video. Her parents don't even allow her to do anything, and she could never know how to fold her clothes or do anything, and parents don't even allow her. What she decided to do, she realized first of all that she should be doing more things. So she decided to learn how to iron clothes and then showed it to her parents. And after that, I'll tell you what the parents told her. In this video, you can see her putting the t-shirt on the bed. She takes the iron, she looks and she starts the power on, and then she does a little ironing and then checks, are there any wrinkles? Then she again does the ironing and then again puts her hand and checks whether the wrinkles are gone. So this is what she did and showed this to her parents. Her parents said, oh my God, you should not even be able to fold your own clothes. Now I know you can do much more in life. So now if she goes for employment, it will be possible because they will support her. So that is what, what happens when you equip the problem solver and change that mental model even for the parent. This is an important thing about changing the narrative. I'm going to give another example. Our experience has been when words like inspiration, hero, specially abled are used, it actually strengthens these old mental models. I'm just talking something that is deeply inside us. We know why we don't want that wrong language, but we need to understand why it is important, right? It strengthens the old mental models. It keeps the bad narrative that you're dependent, your life is over intact. How? See, if you're as a person with disability, if you're a hero, that means only it was possible by you. You are so great. Everybody else are dependent, but you are very great. That means mostly everybody's life is over. As a disabled person, nothing much is possible, but you are very great. You are a hero. You are an inspiration. So somewhere that actually can sometimes create a problem when you are called specially abled, etc. So we need to think of this and really work on the changing the narrative. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to come to the expectations that you all have spoken about. What I want to make very clear is that I've not covered many critical things from the Harvard course, for which I've written on the screen. I'm not going to explain it. Impact creation, logic, scaling, and innovation. How to build a narrative was also taught. Many other things, measurement, many things were taught. I'm not going into that. But I just want you all to remember the 5 principles that I've spoken about: adaptive leadership, reconfiguring power, equipping the problem solver, learning together collectively through connections, as many connections as we can form, which happens in collectives also, and changing the simple story, that silly narrative, the wrong narrative, changing that narrative. These are the 5 principles that I've spoken about. But let me now apply it to your expectations, and I think we have enough time. Thank you, timekeepers, for helping me. So let me actually take one audience expectation. This is an NGO founder, very well respected and very amazing person. And he says many times we think in solving in silos. We are in different, you solve, I solve, we solve separately, which might result in some positive results, but not really long-term results. And so I really want to learn more on how I can enable my training graduates with disability and make them earn a living. So this is my suggestion to this NGO founder and others, right? I think it's time. You are a leader. You're an amazing leader. Take the lead in your area. Let's all work on a narrative together. Let's work in a collective. What's that collective which we should have? Lead that collective. And then we'll have a collective identity. I am part of this mission, right? We'll have that. And most importantly, let's all practice adaptive leadership. And you, me, we all, I'm saying now, even within your organizations, by the way. So inside your organization, so within Enable India, I want all of us to now practice adaptive leadership. How we learn to work, learn to solve something together. We learn together and then we solve, right? So I would like to say this to my audience member. Now, and so this will be true for the people who are from an education sector. Let's work on a narrative, right? About, say, for example, since I'm seeing Shivaji on the screen, something with respect to sign language being a natural language. Let's get rid of 1880, the problems that happened in Milan. And already we have a collective for hearing, or for deaf. But within that, maybe a very important collective for deaf education. And sorry, your video is stuck. My video is stuck. I can see my video here. Can people see my video? Is that okay? Or sir? Yeah, it's okay now. No, it's stuck. No, it's still stuck, or off and on, please. Off and on, yeah. But can people hear me? Yeah. Okay. Let me then just go ahead.
It's open, frozen.
Frozen.
We can hear you, but your video is frozen.
But we can hear you. Okay. Okay. Maybe let me just see if I stop sharing and try it again. Let's just give it a. Is this better? The screen is frozen. What is my internet? Oh, it's actually fairly good. It's okay. Is it better now? Yeah. Yeah. You can see me now. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Let me just must have just for whatever reason frozen. Yeah. So let me just move on to the next audience expectation, and I hope you like that your expectations are being taken because again stuck. Yeah, yeah. Fluctuating. It's fluctuating. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Okay. One of the audience members is from a large company and is part of CSR. And what they have said is, I want to pick up some point so that I can evaluate CSR programs in the future. That means for funding. Whom should I fund? So my suggestion to the people who are from a CSR background, look for organizations to fund who will work on addressing mental models. I know many of us on this call, you are working on deep things. You're working on science for a blind person. You're working on deaf education by a deaf person. You're working on invisible disability. You're working on theater of the oppressed. You're working on mental models. So such people should get funded, right? And if you're willing to work in a collective, such organizations should get funded. And also watch out for who are those organizations who look at making the primary actor be the problem solver. So if you see a school where it's not the school principal only, it's also the members in the school are becoming the problem solvers, that's a better school, right? So this is my suggestion from a systems thinking perspective. I want to take one more example, which was by an NGO executive working for inclusion of persons with disability in the aviation sector. But I think you can think of your sector. Maybe you are trying to do inclusion. If you're from a company, maybe you're trying to do inclusion in the financial sector. Maybe you're a DEI, diversity professional from a particular foundation or a company. So what this NGO executive wanted to know was, how can I understand this concept better and use it in my industry? So let me answer this in the following way. First, can you treat the place you work, that aviation, let's say, for example, I know you work at the airport. If you're working at the airport, can you treat that place as a system? Now, if it is a system, all the people who work there are the actors in the system, right? Now, there are different units. So if I take an example of an airport, you have logistics, you have security, and each of those units, these people there are the secondary actors. For example, the security folks who, do your checking, they, will get a person with disability who come there. They may not know how to behave. So they need to be equipped to solve the problem of inclusion of passengers with disability. How do we equip them, right? So how do we do that also? Maybe from each of these units, logistics, securities, we select a leader. You find that one person who is a little
Shanti ma'am, I think you're frozen. Just give us a second. We'll wait for Shanti to come back. Apologies for the technical glitch.
Yeah, Shanti is trying to reconnect to the Zoom. Just give us 1 minute. Yeah. Meanwhile, please share your comments on the comments box, your thoughts and all of that.
Okay. Hopefully I'm visible now. Yeah. Am I visible now? Can I see? Yeah. Can you come in or out? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Let me just continue. Yeah. So as I was saying, giving that example, that can you take leaders from your different areas and make them learn together, be an adaptive leader and work with the primary actors. Who are the primary actors? Persons with disability who come to the airport. Maybe, for example, we have our purple ambassadors on this call. Maybe they can bring the purple ambassadors, learn from them, but ultimately learn, the person who is in the security area has to understand and they find solutions, find it amongst themselves, but they're constantly learning together. This would be my suggestion. And I have other participants who have asked questions which are similar, not exactly the same. How can I work in a corporate landscape for disability properly? What, how, and when to implement systems thinking was asked by an NGO executive. So I've given an example here, which can be applied in your organization. So you could just start with systems thinking within your organization. One NGO senior executive has asked to understand systems that would help me to scale my operations. I think you would have got an answer here. How do you actually work in this collective fashion, work with secondary actors, etc. And some corporate professional has asked, how do I bring systemic change for increasing accessibility? And this person is in the company as a person with disability. So they will need to see if they can get buy-in, or we can work with you closely. I know who this person is. And can we, if you want, we can work in your company at a system level. Maybe then whatever we have spoken here will happen within your company also. Let me take another example, which was very important and very different, little deeper in disability. For many of you may not know about sickle cell, which is a sickle cell disease or sickle cell, which affects many people, especially in tribal areas. So one of our participants has said, I really want to learn more and see how I can actually do something to spread and save future generations, right? My suggestion would be the following, right? First and foremost, or at least some understanding, some ideas of mine, what I feel is, for example, that, there's already a mission going on at the government, which is to eliminate sickle cell anemia. That is there. You are dealing with a healthcare system, right? You're aware of that. But actually what you are really tackling at the tribal level or wherever it is that once the problem with sickle cell anemia is once you have it, it will go to future generations because it is a genetic problem. It will keep happening in future generations. Now, where is the biggest problem? Very often when two cousins marry, then you start, more genetic. Because of, cousin marriage, this problem of genetic problem keeps continuing, right? Now, how do you tackle that mental model? That's what we need to work on, right? And leaders here like you, along with others, should use adaptive leadership. Every time, like Rupa was mentioning, right? She tried something with her mother-in-law, it worked, but not with father-in-law. We are sitting and talking, what worked with one tribal, what didn't work with another person, how do we make this, how do we save? And we are finding out what works and keeps learning together, and we will slowly solve this together. At Enable India, I think I want you to know a key skill that we have been working on is the skill of making sense of the system. This skill is called sense making. So if we need to, I will show you in the next slides what we are planning with all of you. This may be where you concentrate. Work on adaptive leadership, work on making sense. And I think, together, your dream should come true. No two ways about it. So with this, what I'll do is I think, I think I've addressed most of your expectations. There are many here which I've listed, but I feel all of them have got covered. So we have about 5 minutes. Let me just talk of the way forward. I think we didn't have time really to talk today because we had to just explore things. So August 1st and 2nd, I've already marked in my calendar for systems thinking working meetings. We will maybe send Calendly invites, where you can mark 1 hour, 2 hours, something like that. But what I request each one of you to do, whoever is interested, because 94% or 95% of you said that you care deeply about this, the problems. I would suggest if you're in education, if you're in science, if you're in something, you're an entrepreneur. There are many entrepreneurs who have joined this call. Lead your calls, whatever you're interested in, right? Send your intent if you want us to be involved by the end of this month. And I would suggest you get together with the people who care, have your discussions, do all that before August 1st. And then what we will do is, since the calendar on August 1st and 2nd, we'll have working meetings. We can have working meetings with a larger group. And I will also be present. So that means, let's say we decide to do, say, something on invisible disability. On August 1st, we block 2 hours. We're not having any training there or whatever it is. You've already done some talking between yourselves, right? We are talking about it. We are discussing different things. We'll set an agenda before the meeting. And then we'll actually have a working meeting where we look at solving this. Maybe we are looking at the iceberg. We are talking about how do we do this adaptive leadership on this problem. We'll get into real discussions. So these will not be big crowds. We may be only 5, 10 of us, but I suggest that we do this working meeting. And obviously, we do want all of you participants to take part in this and maybe help in that problem solving of, let's say, invisible disability. Not problem solving, but the systems thinking aspect. Another way forward that we want to do is, if the deaf and the hard of hearing, found the speed a little bit fast, or maybe it could be others also, let us know in the feedback. We'll send you something. And then maybe if we need to, we can have a separate session which has much more equality where everybody deaf are there. So we can do it in sign language from the beginning, not a hearing to sign language. I feel things get lost in that. Thanks, Sibaji, for your thumbs up. And what we can also do is that we are thinking of doing an on-site program, not just for teaching the Harvard. Now we can go deeper in that, but I think because we want to come, with actions together. So I'm thinking maybe October end week, let's see. I will definitely be posting you an email and maybe on LinkedIn. And maybe we have different groupings: education, employment, legal, invisible disability, etc. I know we have Amar here, different folks. So we can take those different groupings and do something about it. The most important thing I want to tell you, in the pipeline, not happened yet, we are discussing something with we are hoping to talk to this philanthropist to fund some of us to have Harvard doing an online course for all of you. But you'll have to earn that, huh? Maybe if you do all these action groups and blah, 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 then, you need that course. And I think we'll be very excited if some of you can actually attend that Harvard course online. So yeah, with that, I will stop buck-buckifying and, hopefully you found this useful, and I think we've ended on time, 1 minute before time. So, whoever wants to unmute, tell whatever you want, you can tell, because now after this, whoever wants to drop off can drop off, but would love to hear from each one of you. I've tried my best. I think huge thanks to everybody in the team who took part in this. Great thanks to the co-anchors and the interpreters, and each one of you for being so sweetly giving your feedback, chat. Yay! Nice to see Sarah there. Hope it was. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. And I think we should have more deeper discussions. I think I want to do one specifically for the entrepreneurs because, okay, thank you, Akila. It was very informative and explained beautifully. We will have the recording, and I love Nitin for Nitin's point. Ajita, thanks so much. Grateful for your sharing, open and frank. Looking forward. Power pack presentation, so meaningful. Thank you, Sudha. Very good. Pranamya is saying. Thank you so much for your chat. This is really an amazing session. Thank you. Amazing and insightful. From Digesh. Oh my God, Digesh. I knew you were there. This is Digesh Meva. We used to work in Mauritius. Now he's in Canada. So that's great to know. Shiva, yes, systems thinking is a deep topic. Thanks a lot for sharing it. I love the next steps. Exactly. Yes, Shiva. Rock, let's do, expecting to be an active participant in future steps. Yes. So Padmavati, you are so much into education. Maybe you are looking at some action groups on that. Sheetal, thanks for the sessions. Quite insightful. Brinda, the session opened many doors of exploration. Thank you. Yes, Brinda. And I think you have an important role to play. I think our entire fashion segment, and it's not just about fashion, right? It's about dignity, and you know how much you are helping in mental models, by the way, the work that you are doing. So, and I think I saw our Somita, no? She was also there online. Thanks for the session.
Soumitra.
Yeah. So Arnab is saying thank you. Padmavati, even in medical perspective, correct? Varsha is saying great session, lots of key takeaways. And Varsha, you can understand the work that you've been doing, how important that becomes. Loved the stories. Would love to be in follow-up ones. And in your feedback, if you feel we need to, I think this August 1st, if it sounds good to everybody, maybe we put that in the feedback and ask people, yes, we want this, we don't want. Tina, I hope the subtitles were useful. Kritika, thank you so much. A lot of time thinking about, would love to carry the learnings. Yes. Remember that legal is very important from a mental model. At scale, when every person with disability knows that they are important to the country, we'll change the damn mental model. Prasad, thank you so much. He's, Prasad is one of the very prominent deaf leaders from Goa. Savita says, good insights. Hashim says, thank you. I'm also interested to build a career in the field of mental health. Oh my God, I'd love that, Hashim. I think we should ask questions in which area are you wanting to lead? You don't need our permission to lead anything, by the way. It's only if you want to, you want to have a session, a working meeting, and we'll get more folks from here. Because we're going to learn together, not to solve. So we're not going to have only me on that call. I'm just marking my calendar. I liked buck-buckifying as well. Varsha, yes, thank you. I agree with that. Yeah, we need a little bit more buck-buckifying. Like that. Yes, we need that. Yes. Yeah. So good. I think, being on time is a wonderful thing like this in Indigo. I feel very happy about that.
And also one more thing, Shanti, there are a lot of comments also people have shared on some of the questions as well. We will get back to you with all your thoughts and all of that. Thank you all.
Super. Thank you so much. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Yay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi, Dastikir. How are you? Good to see you.
Fine, ma'am. Thank you very much.
I hope you like all spinal cord injured examples. Ranjini,
Yes.
join. Yeah, you had asked about the recording. It will be there. Don't worry about it. Mamta is saying this one. Informative. Rahul Gambhir. Yes, thank you, Rahul. Thank you for the learnings. Oh, you Rick. Maybe your feedback later can't read and watch interpret at the same time. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Okay, Ulrike. Actually, it's Shivaji telling from his Ulrike's thing. Yeah.
Oh, there's so much.
Thank you, Shivaji. Really happy to see you.
Okay, the video, both of them are there.
Oh, really? Yeah, good to see you. UK? You're still in UK, right? Yeah, I thought he's UK.
Yes, correctly in UK, yes.
Yeah. Super. Great. Awesome. Okay. Bye, everybody.